Hey there, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review, this time of the sequel, Crocodile Dundee II. Now, like I was talking about in the first film, people forget how popular these movies were back in the day. The first film was about the second highest grossing film of its year, which was 1986, I believe. Same year as Top Gun, which was number one. Crocodile Dundee II came out in 1988, and was so huge it made over $100 million when it came out in the US. That's not a small feat today, because there's quite a few films that don't make it up to that, let alone back in 1988. I mean, this was in the top 10 highest grossing films of that year, and it beat out Rambo 3 on the same weekend, May 25th, 1988. I know that because it was my birthday. This and Rambo 3 came out, and I'm a bigger Rambo fan, and yeah, between the two, I would put Rambo 3 above Crocodile Dundee 2, but this beat Rambo 3 at the box office. Rambo 3 got number 2, and this got number 1. And Rambo 3, by the time it ended, made what, about 60 some million in the US, and this made over 100 million. So there you go. Crocodile Dundee was bigger than Rambo at that time. And it beat out a lot of big movies. The same year Die Hard came out, Die Hard only made, well, it was still great for it, 80 some million. Great flick, and yeah, we'll put Die Hard above Crocodile Dundee 2. But Crocodile Dundee 2 was a bigger movie than Die Hard. Granted, that's still, think about it. Crocodile Dundee 2 made more money than Die Hard. That's how big these movies were back in the day. And as I'm doing this, I saw the trailer for the fake movie for the Super Bowl and stuff. And people are like, oh, I still did comments about that video. Haha, they fooled you. It was fake. I'm like, I said in the video like almost 2.5 minutes in, that if it's a gag, it's a useless fucking gag because it's not funny. It wasn't clever. It wasn't interesting. It was a waste of fucking time and money. And then you watch the trailer, it's even more so for their stupid ad for the Super Bowl, whatever. Because you get people like Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe and Chris Hemsworth, as well as Danny McBride, and like you get all these people for an ad that wasn't funny, was annoying as shit, didn't have one joke that made me smile, and you could put all that money into special editions of these. Like I was saying in the comments of my previous video, there's an Australian version of this which has a few added scenes and some of the cursing's not edited because they had to in the US. Not all, but some of them. You could have that. You could have interviews, commentaries, special features of these movies, but no. You get this bullshit, unfunny ad. And then now that Crocodile Dundee's brought up, people hate it. People hate these movies. Great. Thank you, new ad. Now you just have people bashing these movies. That's not the only reason, but it's just, oh, I remember that. Oh, it sucks. When I reviewed the first film, I got a lot of thumbs down on that video because, like, oh yeah, this movie's racist and it's sexist and it's bullshit. I know it's 4 minutes and I haven't talked about the sequel, but just I enjoy these films, and it just, you know, I guess for a lot of people they either never liked them or it didn't hold up for them or they don't care, but to me I do care. Going to the second film, I've always liked the second movie, but as time has gone on, I've liked it a bit more and more with each viewing. The first one is still my favorite, but the second film, it's a good, solid action comedy. Got some good chuckles and laughs out of me. There's some good bits of stunt work, like when he swings from one part of the building to underneath. I think done much better than Machete. And it has a lot of the same great elements. Peter Best comes back to do the score, does a wonderful job on the score once again. Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski worked well together. That's a cool poster too. Nice cool poster. This time it's directed by John Cornell instead of Peter Feynman. John Cornell worked on the first film. He was a producer and one of the people who worked on the screenplay. But here he's still one of the producers, but he has gone up as director. If they're still around, love to have interviews with them. And I don't really see the sexist misogyny that people come up with when they talk about these movies. I don't see it. They might have the blinders on, but I don't see it. I just give it as, I hate to use this line, but why so serious? But the other, I like the way it opens up with he's in the actual New York harbor and he's fishing with explosives. And the cops know him. He's like, oh man, come on. And it's a nice shot. You got the Twin Towers in the background and such. And he's been living in the city with they're not married, but his love of his life, Linda Kozlowski, which they were in love in real life. He wants a job. Charles S. Dutton has an appearance in it. He's in the city, but he's still getting used to stuff. When Charles S. Dutton says, oh, I work with stationery. You did? And he goes, yep, did. Is that part of the job? Digging. And the way that was delivered made me chuckle, made me laugh. Or he's going with Linda Kozlowski and through this market, and it's one of those guys with the flutes with the dancing snake, and he sees it and quickly kills it because he thinks it's a danger without the guy even noticing, and then he's like, what the? He just kills the snake. And this has, like the first film, it's not really a story and the fact of really villains and such. It was more a slice of life in an Australian outback, this love story building up, and then fish out of water story with Crocodile Dundee in the city, and then a great freeze frame ending of them embracing. Here, you get a little bit more of, there were bad guys in the first film, like the pimp and try to beat up Crocodile Dundee and such. Here, much more of a plot of bad guys. This one guy, I forget the actor's name, he was in films like Batteries Not Included and such. He was an ex of Linda Kozlowski. He's taking pictures of these drug lords. Took pictures, sent copies in. It's a Colombian drug cartel. He gets killed. They want those pictures, so they go over to New York to try to find her. One of the bad guys, you have Luis Guzman, who's been in a lot of stuff. He's one of the bad guys. Also a guy named Juan Fernandez, who, he's not the head bad guy, but he's sort of the second in command of the head bad guy. Juan Fernandez was the collector in the first film, The Collector. He was the guy in the mask in the first film, so it's like, cool. It's like Crocodile Dundee going up against the collector. At least in the first movie. So it's cool to see, and I thought the bad guys did fine. And you still have bits of humor in the city where Crocodile Dundee's dealing with a jumper, and he walks on the ledge. He's, oh, I need to get by, but I'll just wait till he finished. And just the guy that talked, again, the thing that made me chuckle when the guy's going, why, I love that bitch. The way he said that. He was great to me, and then Crocodile's like, and he slips and he almost falls, and he has to drive himself back up. Other noticeable faces, one of the cops is Stephen Root, who was in Office Space and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And Stephen Root, You've seen him in a lot of places if you looked him up. It's like, oh, I recognize that guy. He's one of the cops. At this point, the bad guys have his woman. The cops are following him, so he follows one of the cops to a urinal and threatens his dick and gets some info. He deals with a bad guy in the subway, and you have these two guys. I guess this is sort of the racist thing they people talk about. Two people who have to be Asian, who are taking photographs, and they help Crocodile Dundee out. Crocodile Dundee slams a trash can, and one guy kicks him, and they think Crocodile Dundee is Clint Eastwood. And I never thought of it being racist. I just thought it was just a scene. I don't know. I just never think much of it. But, we live more in a politically correct age, so people retroactively look back on films like this and, in my opinion, create a lot of bullshit. But that's the age we live in nowadays. Not saying there's never been that kind of stuff in the past, but a lot of times people just have a tight ass about it. So tight you put a fucking piece of coal up with a twist, they get a diamond. But a reason I enjoy the film, one of the reasons, is it really does show Crocodile Dundee is a badass. There's a thug on the other side of the door, and he just punches through the door, knocks the guy out, hangs him, threatens him to drop him, gets info, cops are coming, so he does a swing from one building through the window. He's like, oh, excuse me. Smiles and walks off. And first off, I like that scene much better than in Machete or other movies like that. Also, Paul Hogan just had a good charm and, I would say, charisma to him with his role. He was a very likable character, has a nice delivery of his lines, and easy guy to root for. Just a good, easygoing likability to him. And I like the scene where he gets Charles as Dutton's help, and they go with all these guys are just hanging out, not really thugs, not really punks, but they're just hanging out. And I like what Dundee says, well, you said you're doing nothing. Tomorrow, someone asks you that question. You can still say, I did nothing. Or you just say, we helped this lunatic storm a fortress. And then one guy tries to fuck him with his coat. What are the odds of you getting out there without that coat? And he just throws the knife and it goes right between the guy's mohawk. And he goes, better than average. That's what I mean. I mean, people forget that Crocodile Dundee is a badass in these movies. Especially in the second one. But people tend to forget that. And they cause a distraction. He gets in. He's knocking people out, rescues. And one day leads to another, realizes they're only safe in Australia. He said, I want to fight them on my own terms. And they chase after them. And he starts fucking with them. No sweat off his brow. He makes one guy get trapped and dragged by a water buffalo. He puts stuff on guys so that bats come and try to attack them. He makes his version of a telephone call with this thing that makes this noise. And some people from this tribe come by. And it's one of my favorite parts of the well, to me, one of the funniest moments in the movie where the guy talks, we don't know what, we can't understand him, and then the other guy talks English, goes, no, mate, we just hold them. And then she asks, what did he say? He goes, he wants to know we're allowed to eat these men. And then the people who Dundee has caught or steered, but the guy looks at Linda Kozlowski and winks at her secretly, then she sort of has to cover up a laugh. But that was pretty funny. And also later on when one of Dundee's buddies asked with him, "How's that taste?" Needs garlic. So some nice bits of humor, chuckle-worthy humor. Especially, I mean, for PG, it's a PG film, but it didn't feel like a kid's movie, which is one of the drawbacks of the third movie, that's PG as well, but it felt more like a kid's film. This didn't feel like a kid's movie to me. It still felt like a movie as an adult that's not embarrassing or cringeworthy to watch. It's just an action comedy that happens to be PG. And Dundee, uh, again, he knows what he's doing. He's confident. He's taking these guys out one by one. He's able to save his buddy Walt, who was in the first movie, who sadly passed away very shortly after this film came out, which is too bad. He did a good job, just like he did in the first one. One guy gets beat up because you have two guys who were in the bar in the first movie, and, well, I don't need a gun. I've got a donk. What? It's that big guy. Donk! It just beats the fuck out of the guy, knocks him the fuck out. It'd be like Chris Tucker and Friday. You got knocked the fuck out. And the ending is not as memorable as the first one, because the first one is that great culmination of the love story of in the subway and him climbing on people letting them, and the embrace. Here it's, he put us on the bad guy's clothes to draw out another guy, but then Linda Kozlowski and Walt, they, without knowing it, accidentally shoot Dundee, and who they thought was Dundee, they think is dead, but he's not dead. So it doesn't have quite the magic to me as the ending of the first movie, but still, it's a nice ending, and it's not as glorious, but it still has that great music by Peter Best, and him and her. He goes, "Hey, you want to go home to New York?" And she's like, "I am home." That was a nice line, and they both look off to the landscape and freeze frame, and once again, I keep repeating the Peter Best music, but that's something that was very much missed in the third movie, but the score is a great asset to these films. And the Crocodile Dundee II, entertaining action comedy that anyone in the family can watch. Like I said, it's PG. I don't really see what the problem is that people have with these films. I think they're good for what they're supposed to be, entertainment. And these films don't get talked about a lot, and when they do, they get trashed. And I disagree with those notions very much. But yeah, I see a lot of people give this new Dundee ad a pass. Oh, it's so funny. And I'm like, that's funny? That's funny. Teach their own. I don't get it. But either way, thanks for watching this review of Crocodile Dundee II. Good, solid sequel to the first one. And it's kind of weird how this just bare no artwork. It's funny, I have the DVD set that has all three movies, because the third one I don't have on Blu-ray, and I don't even think it's out on Blu-ray, but I'm fine with just having it on DVD, because it's still, you'll know next time more of my thoughts on that. But it's a time waster. I prefer these two. But even those DVDs had artwork. Like, this doesn't even have artwork on the disc, and really no features, a trailer, and then the second film just had a little 5-minute featurette from back in the day. But anyway, Crocodile Dundee II, like I said, I think it's very solid flick that doesn't get talked about a lot, but pretty damn good flick. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.